He realized it was Christmas Eve in the worst possible way. No one had bothered to tell him. His phone lay silent on the table. No messages, no missed calls. The apartment felt larger when it was like this. Not because there was too much space, but because silence filled everything. He made coffee on autopilot and, as always, let it burn slightly. The bitter smell spread through the kitchen, carrying an old memory with it. It was the same smell from years ago, from the last Christmas he never talked about. He sat at the table with the cup in his hands. He didn't drink. He didn't let go. The clock showed it was too early for visitors. Even so, he avoided looking at the door. He always did, because doors demand choices, and choices leave marks. The knock came when he had already given up expecting anything from that day. It wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. It was too polite for that hour. 3 short knocks, a pause, then 2 more. His heart raced before he understood why. It wasn't fear. It was recognition. He knew that sound. He knew the exact space between the knocks. He knew the heavy silence that followed. He closed his eyes. He didn't want to hear it again. The knock came back, slightly firmer. He stood in the middle of the room, staring at the door, as if it were alive, as if someone on the other side could feel what he was thinking. The memory returned in full. Another door, another Christmas, the same hesitation, that long ago night. He had heard the knock too. He had thought about pretending he hadn't. He had thought he could deal with it later. And later had been too late. "I know you're in there," a man's voice said, low and controlled. His stomach dropped. He didn't answer. "I won't take long," the voice continued. "I just need to talk to you." He leaned his back against the wall. Talk. It was always that. No one ever knocked just to knock. A conversation always came with it. And conversations meant hearing things you couldn't give back afterward. "Go away," he whispered, knowing no one would hear him. Silence returned for a few seconds. For a cruel moment, he believed it had worked. Then came the sentence he hadn't expected. "This isn't about you. It's about him." The air vanished from the room. "You're mistaken," he replied, his voice hoarse. "Whoever you are, you're mistaken." "I'm not," the man said. "And I wouldn't be here if there were another option." He ran a hand over his face, cold sweat rising. "Who sent you?" he asked. "Someone who still believes you'll answer." He laughed, a dry laugh, without humor. "Then that person doesn't know me." His hand touched the doorknob, stayed there a second longer than necessary, then fell. "Go away." Footsteps retreated down the hallway, slow, unhurried. He slid down to the floor, sitting with his back against the door. His breathing was fast. He had done it again. Chosen silence, chosen not to know. Then he noticed something on the floor. Leaning against the door was an envelope. No name, no address, just carefully folded. He stared at it for a long time. He knew opening it would change everything. He also knew not opening it was a choice. He couldn't remember exactly when Christmas started to hurt. He only knew it hadn't always been that way. There was a time when December arrived differently. Not happier, just fuller. The house from his childhood felt smaller. back then, yet it always managed to hold everyone. There were never enough chairs. Someone always showed up unannounced. Someone always sat on the arm of the couch or stood by the sink, talking as if that were the best place in the world. He remembered the noise before he remembered the faces, cutlery clinking against plates, glasses touching, laughter that started to loud and ended in coughing, and his father. His father was always there before everyone else arrived, never sitting, never still. He moved through the house as if checking something. Invisible. He straightened the tablecloth, complained that the food would get cold, even when there were still hours to go. Wait, his mother would say. It's still early. His father never agreed with that word, early, to him. Everything had to happen before it went wrong. At the time, he didn't understand that. He just found it exhausting. He thought his father talked too much, that he cared too much about small details. Today, he knew better. It had a name, fear. But children don't recognize fear in their parents. They only recognize discomfort. Christmas had a smell, not of one thing, but of mixture ... food. Coffee brewed too early, perfume, a crowded house. It was a smell that said, there are too many people here, and he liked that. He would sit on the living room floor, back against the wall, watching adults talk about things that made no sense. He laughed when everyone laughed, even without knowing why. That was where Christmas really happened. Not in the gifts, in the noise. His father tried to organize the conversation. One at a time, he'd say, no one understands anything like this. No one listened. His father sighed, tired with an old kind of tiredness. He remembered one Christmas clearly. He was about 8. The house was full, but something was off. Not a fight, tension. His father spoke less, walked faster. The smile appeared and vanished too quickly. At some point, the conversation stopped, not all at once, as if someone had turned the volume of the world down. His father stood near the door, a glass in his hand. We need to talk, he said. Looking at his mother, she answered with a rushed smile. Later. The word fell heavy in the air. Later. His father nodded ... He always did. But something in him hardened. That night, he fell asleep hearing low voices behind his bedroom door. They weren't shouts, and maybe that's why they stayed with him. It was people trying to solve things too big in voices, too small. Without realizing it, he learned something then. Important things are almost always left for later, and later doesn't always come. The years that followed were similar. A full house. Christmas still happening. But something had shifted. His father was still there. More rigid. Less laughter. More control. He grew older and started answering back. Relax, he'd say. It's just Christmas. His father hated that phrase. It's not just Christmas, he'd reply. It's when everyone is here. He didn't understand the weight of that ... as a teenager. Christmas became an obligation, something marked on the calendar. He arrived later, stayed for less time. His father noticed. He always noticed. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, he'd say. But the sentence carried something that wasn't freedom. Without realizing it, he learned that staying meant responsibility. And responsibility always came with guilt. That was when Christmas started to lose its glow, long before the door, long before the knock, before the door, before the knock, before the final silence. There was a conversation. It didn't happen at Christmas. And maybe that's why it took him so long to understand its importance. It happened on a night too ordinary to carry something so heavy. The house was almost empty. His mother was out. Dinner had been simple. The dishes were washed too quickly, as if no one wanted to stretch the moment. His father sat at the table, turning a glass in his hand without drinking. "Sit for a bit," he said. Without looking up, he sat. He was old enough to live on his own, yet he still came back often. Maybe out of habit, maybe out of fear of admitting he was leaving little by little. "You've been disappearing," his father said. "I've been working a lot." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth. "There's always work," his father replied. "There always will be." Silence stretched between them. "You don't come to stay anymore," his father continued. "You come to pass through." The sentence didn't accuse, but it weighed. "I come when I can. It's not about being able to," his father said. "It's about wanting to." Irritation rose in his chest. "You turn everything into an obligation." His father finally looked up. "Staying shouldn't be an obligation," he said. "It should be a choice." "Then stop demanding." "I don't demand. I worry." The word hung in the air. Worry had always been his father's language. He had never learned to speak it. "You worry too much," he said. "It's like you're always waiting for something to go wrong." His father stayed quiet. "Because it usually does." He laughed without humor. "Not everything needs to be controlled." "I don't control," his father said. "I try to hold on." "Hold on to what?" His father hesitated. "To you," he said. "To people leaving." He looked away. "No one's leaving." "You are," his father replied. "Little by little." Texto Podro. "I know," his father said. "But sometimes it feels like you think staying means losing something." His throat tightened. "Staying hurts," he said. "It always does." His father frowned. "Why?" He didn't know how to answer. "Because when we stay, someone always expects more." His father rubbed his face. "I never asked for more than you could give. You asked without asking." His father nodded. "Maybe." Silence returned. "Will you come for Christmas?" his father asked. He hesitated. "Maybe." His father closed his eyes. That word again. "I don't know," he said. "I don't like feeling pulled." "I don't pull you," his father said. "I reach out my hand." He stood up. "The difference is too small for me." His father stayed there, motionless. "Sometimes," he said, almost to himself, "we only realize how much we needed to hold on after we let go." He left. Shortly after, a few days later, on Christmas Eve, his father knocked on the door, and he didn't open it. That Christmas started wrong. Not with a fight, not with shouting. It started with a strange feeling in his body, the kind that warns you before your mind understands. He woke up late. There were unread messages on his phone. None urgent, none he wanted to open. He lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to decide whether he would go or not. That was the truth he avoided. He still hadn't decided. The apartment was too quiet when he got up. The kind of quiet that comes on Christmas Eve, when the world seems busy elsewhere. He made coffee, burned it slightly, didn't notice. He thought about his father, the unfinished conversation, the word maybe. He put on a shirt, took it off, put on another. He left without telling anyone. The streets were full of people heading somewhere. Shopping bags, gifts, hurried faces. He felt irritated, as if everyone knew exactly where they were supposed to be, except him. He arrived at his parents' house in the late afternoon. The lights were on. His father's car in the driveway. He stayed in the car for a few seconds, hand on the steering wheel. He thought about leaving. He went in. The house was full, but different. Less noise, less laughter. His father stood in the kitchen, fussing with things already done. He saw him enter. "You came," his father said. It wasn't joy. It was acknowledgement. "I said maybe," he replied. Silence fell. During dinner, nothing fit quite right. Every sentence felt slightly off. "Are you leaving early?" his father asked. "I don't know," the word returned. His father put down his fork. "You never know," he said quietly. "Why today?" he snapped. "Why today of all days?" "Because today you're here," his father said. "And I need to talk when you're here. Always this. Because it never ends." His mother tried to intervene. "Leave it for later." Later. The word fell heavy. "You see," his father said. "Always later. You choose the worst moment." "There is no good moment," his father replied. "There's courage or insistence." His father took a deep breath. "I knocked on your door," he said. The air shifted. "That night," he continued, "I knocked. I thought you had left. I stayed a long time." Silence thickened. "I didn't open because I didn't know what to say," he confessed. "And now?" his father asked. "Do you know?" He didn't answer. He grabbed his coat. His mother tried to speak. He left. Outside, the night was cold. His father stood in the doorway. He didn't call out. He didn't follow. And that was the last time, for many years, that they stood face to face. After that Christmas, no one knocked for a long time. At first, it felt like relief. No expectations, no demands. Life went on. He changed apartments, changed neighborhoods, changed routines. He called it freedom. Silence became company. Christmas became just a day off. When people asked about his family, he answered briefly, "They're fine." It was enough to end the conversation. But silence grows. Not all at once, corner by corner. An empty chair, a phone that doesn't ring. He stopped missing them. And that scared him. Not because he didn't love them, but because he had learned how to protect himself. There was a Christmas when he stayed awake all night. He made coffee, burned it. He smiled, then stopped. There was no one to complain. That was when he understood something. Silence is only comfortable when it can be broken. The years passed. Friends drifted away. Relationships ended without drama. He became someone to calm. And that had a cost. One night, he heard a knock in the apartment next door. It wasn't for him. Even so, his heart raced. Fear not of the knock, but of never hearing one again. The neighbor felt as if he had always been there. He never arrived noisily, never drew attention. He nodded in greeting, observed. He lived alone. "My son lives far away," he said once. Christmas changed everything. In the first year, the neighbor knocked on doors on the floor, not his. In the second year, he knocked. He didn't open. In the third, there was no knock, and the absence of the sound disturbed him. They started talking more. "Are you waiting for someone?" he asked one day. The neighbor smiled sadly. "We always are." Then he said, "I got tired of asking." The sentence stayed with him. He realized then that man hadn't left, but he hadn't truly stayed either. It was the future waiting for him if he kept not opening doors. He noticed the girl before he noticed her presence. It was the sound. Footsteps too fast for a narrow hallway. A rhythm that didn't match the careful silence of adults. She ran up and down the stairs as if the building were a backyard, jumped 2 steps at a time, sometimes hummed without a clear melody. At first, it annoyed him. Then it became a reference point when the building grew to quiet. Those footsteps reminded him that someone was still there. She lived on the 3rd floor with her mother, always carrying a backpack too big for her small body. He once found her sitting on a step, drawing on the floor with a short pencil. "Shouldn't you be at school?" he asked. "Not today," she said. "Today is different." Different how? She thought for a moment. When it can't be the same, from then on, they began to recognize each other. They didn't talk often, but they knew of each other. Christmas was approaching. "What are you doing for Christmas?" she asked. "I don't know yet." She frowned. "Someone always does something on Christmas." "Not always. My mom is working," she said. There was a pause. "And you?" "I'll stay." She nodded, as if storing a promise. On Christmas Eve, he heard the 3rd floor door close too early. Hours later, light footsteps echoed in the hallway. A knock. Not on his door. He stood still, listening, and he realized something that hurt. She still knocked. He no longer did. He didn't wear a uniform. He didn't want to look important. Importance created distance. He was ordinary, worked all day, rode crowded buses, and still he knocked on doors, hospitals, shelters, old buildings. That Christmas Eve, he considered not going. He was tired, but he knew it was the day when people most needed to be seen. At the hospital, he was given a name, an elderly man, few visitors. "I have a son," the man said. We stopped talking. "Do you want me to call him?" "No. I want you to go." He handed over an address. "He won't open the door," he warned. Even so. At the building, the volunteer climbed the stairs slowly. He knocked, waited, nothing. He knocked again. "This isn't about you," he said. "It's about him." When the footsteps retreated, he left the envelope on the floor. He didn't give up. He went down 1 floor and knocked again. Night fell slowly. Lights turned on. Doors closed. He sat there, waiting for something he couldn't name. The first knock echoed through the building. On the third floor, he stood up. He thought about going down ... He thought about pretending he hadn't heard. Then came the knock on his door. Polite, careful. "I know you're in there." He didn't answer. "This isn't about you. It's about him." His entire past rearranged itself. When the footsteps retreated, he thought it was over. Then he saw the envelope. He opened it. "Read the sentence. If you're still there, so am I." The intercom rang. He opened the door. "Where's the hospital?" he asked. And he went. The hospital had its own silence at night. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was restraint, slower footsteps, lower voices, as if everyone knew that any word could weigh too much. He passed through the automatic doors, his body reacting before his mind. The smell came first. Cleaning agents, metal, something old. The girl clutched her backpack to her chest. "Is this where people get better?" she asked. He thought before answering. "Sometimes," he said. "Sometimes it's where we arrive in time." The elevator rose slowly. "Are you scared?" she asked. "I am." "Of him or of yourself?" "Both." The volunteer stopped at the door. "I'll stay here," he said. "You go in." He pushed the door open. The room was dark. A dim light revealed his father's face, pale, smaller than in memory ... For a cruel second. He thought he had arrived too late. Then his father's chest moved. "You came," the old man murmured. "I almost didn't," he said. "I heard the knock, and I didn't open." His father smiled faintly. "I fee. Good." The hospital had its own silence at night. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was restraint, slower footsteps, lower voices, as if everyone knew that any word could weigh too much. He passed through the automatic doors, his body reacting before his mind. The smell came first. Cleaning agents, metal, something old. The girl clutched her backpack to her chest. "Is this where people get better?" she asked. He thought before answering. "Sometimes," he said. "Sometimes it's where we arrive in time." The elevator rose slowly. "Are you scared?" she asked. "I am." "Of him or of yourself?" "Both." The volunteer stopped at the door. "I'll stay here," he said. "You go in." He pushed the door open. The room was dark. A dim light revealed his father's face, pale, smaller than in memory. For a cruel second, he thought he had arrived too late. Then his father's chest moved. "You came," the old man murmured. "I almost didn't," he said. "I heard the knock, and I didn't open." His father smiled faintly. "I figured." The hospital had its own silence at night. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was restraint, slower footsteps, lower voices, as if everyone knew that any word could weigh too much. He passed through the automatic doors, his body reacting before his mind. The smell came first. Cleaning agents, metal, something old. The girl clutched her backpack to her chest. "Is this where people get better?" she asked. He thought before answering. "Sometimes," he said. "Sometimes it's where we arrive in time." The elevator rose slowly. "Are you scared?" she asked. I am. Of him or of yourself? Both. The volunteer stopped at the door. I'll stay here, he said. You go in. He pushed the door open. The room was dark. A dim light revealed his father's face. Pale, smaller than in memory. For a cruel second, he thought he had arrived too late. Then his father's chest moved. You came, the old man murmured. I almost didn't, he said. I heard the knock, and I didn't open. His father smiled faintly. I figured. Why didn't you call me sooner? He asked. Because I didn't want to force you, his father answered. I'd already done that too much. Silence settled between them. I knocked on your door. That Christmas, his father said. You didn't open. He closed his eyes. I didn't know how to stay, and I didn't know how to wait, his father said. He held his father's hand. I never stopped loving you, he said. I just forgot how to stay. His father squeezed his hand. Then we were wrong together. His breathing slowed. Thank you for opening the door this time, his father murmured. He stayed until the silence changed its shape. When he left the room, he knew nothing else needed to be said. The next day arrived without ceremony. Light through the window. Distant noise. He woke on the couch, his body heavy. It wasn't just exhaustion. It was absence. He made coffee. Let it burn. He smiled, then stopped. There was no one to complain. Grief arrived in small details. In the urge to call. In the certainty that there was no longer a later. But guilt didn't come. It had stayed at the hospital. A knock echoed in the hallway. He opened the door. The girl stood there. My mom asked if you want to have lunch with us. He hesitated less than he expected. I do. Lunch was simple, warm. Thank you for yesterday, her mother said, for staying. I needed it too. Later, he met the neighbor. Are you okay? The man asked. I'm not, he said. But I'm better. Sometimes that's all there is. They shared coffee. My son called. The neighbor said. I answered. The sentence stayed with him. That night, he opened the old box, took out his father's photo. I'm here, he said. Now I know. He put it away carefully and slept. Christmas doesn't end at midnight. It only changes places. That morning, he woke early. He opened the window. The day was ordinary, and that was enough. He made coffee. He turned it off before it burned. He sat at the table, present. The girl knocked on the door. My mom baked a cake. Then I'm coming, he said. In the hallway, he met the neighbor. I'm going out, the man said. But I'll be back. The word came naturally. At the kitchen table, the girl was drawing. What's that? He asked. A door, she answered. With people on both sides. Is it open? It is, because someone knocked. That night, he stood at his apartment door for a moment. He wasn't waiting for anyone, but if someone knocked, he would be there. Christmas had left the calendar, but it had stayed in the gesture, opening, staying, answering. And for the first time, silence no longer scared him.